The dawn cycle on Helion Station always began the same way. Soft blue light washed through the atrium windows, the humming of the central circulator settled into a steady rhythm, and the younger residents drifted toward their learning wings in clusters of chattering species. But every morning, Lyra walked alone. Her wings, veined like molten glass and shimmering with pale lavender hues, folded tightly against her back as if hiding them might make her smaller, safer, less seen. It never worked. On Helion, delicate was simply another word predators interpreted as invitation. She moved carefully along the corridor wall, trying not to disturb the current of bodies passing around her. Her people, the Varellin, felt emotion through the membranes of their wings. Every shift in air carried a sensation. Joy was warmth, fear was cold pressure, dread was a throb beneath the skin. This morning, dread pulsed continuously. She knew why long before she reached the archway leading to the learning hall. They were already there. 3 figures blocked the entrance: Trask, Hearn, and Veska. All 3 belonged to the core species, lizard-like but stocky, coated in thick ridge plates that clicked faintly when they shifted their weight. Trask, the largest, always positioned himself directly in her path. Today was no different. His tail scraped against the floor with a slow, deliberate drag that made nearby students glance over before quickly pretending they hadn't. No one ever interfered. No one even paused. Lyra's steps faltered, but she forced herself forward. She always tried to get past them quietly, hoping for a miracle that had never come. Trask's eyes narrowed the moment he saw her. The corners of his mouth curled upward into something that tried to imitate amusement. "Look who fluttered in," he muttered, voice rumbling like shifting stone. "Thought you'd slip by unseen today?" Her pulse quickened. She angled her body sideways, careful not to let her wings brush against anything. "I'm late for class," she whispered, trying to keep her voice even. It didn't matter. Trask extended an arm, blocking her path completely. "You always are," he said, leaning closer. "Makes it easier." Hearn and Veska snickered behind him. Lyra inhaled sharply and held it. The air pressure around her wings shifted. The station's circulation vents indicated someone approaching from behind, footsteps steady, human. She didn't dare turn. But Trask noticed first. His head tilted, nostrils flaring. "You picked up a shadow, little glasswing." Lyra stiffened. She wasn't prepared for a witness. Witnesses didn't help. Witnesses walked faster. The approaching footsteps slowed, stopping a short distance behind her. She felt a faint thermal shift. Human body temperature tended to radiate more than most species. A quiet breath followed. Calm. Observing. Not leaving. Trask's smirk widened. "Well? Move aside so your admirer can get through." His tail thumped the floor with a lazy confidence Lyra had come to dread. She braced herself. She knew what usually came next: a shove, a pin, sometimes the rough pinch of claws near her wings. Today, Trask's hand shot toward her shoulder with practiced ease. But it never reached her. A voice cut the air cleanly. "Don't." Just one word, steady, bored, undeniably human. Lyra froze. Trask's arm halted mid-swing. Slowly, both he and the girl behind Lyra turned to face each other. The human was young, maybe a year older than Lyra, with deep-set brown eyes and a posture that held a surprising stillness. Most species fidgeted on Helion. The artificial gravity made movements feel slightly off balance. But this girl planted her feet like she'd grown up under heavier pull. She wasn't tall, not compared to Trask, but she looked certain. That certainty alone made space around her. "What?" Trask demanded, puffing his chest plates outward. "I said don't," the human repeated, stepping forward until she stood beside Lyra. "She's trying to get to class. You're in her way." Her tone remained casual, but there was an undertone, like she was stating an inconvenient fact she expected everyone to accept. The corridor quieted. Students slowed their pace, pretending not to watch, yet hovering within earshot. Trask let out a low hiss. "This has nothing to do with you." "It does now," the human replied. She didn't look angry, she looked tired, as if she'd seen this kind of moment far too many times to bother being intimidated. Move! Hearn barked a laughter chirp. Who are you supposed to be? The human finally offered a name. Myra. Trask leaned forward. Well, Myra, step away before you get hurt. Lyra looked up sharply. Her wings twitched involuntarily, sensing danger and radiating cold pressure across her back. She whispered, Please don't, he won't stop if. I know, Myra said quietly, not taking her eyes off Trask. That's why I'm here. Lyra's breath caught. No one had ever said anything like that before, at least not to her. Trask made the first move. His hand snapped outward in a blur, aiming past Lyra this time, toward Myra. Lyra's wings flared instinctively from the air displacement. Fear jolted through every filament. But Myra didn't flinch. She stepped in, caught Trask's wrist just before impact, and rotated her stance with effortless precision. In a single controlled motion, she redirected his momentum aside, not violent, not flashy, but efficient. Trask stumbled half a step, more surprised than hurt. Myra let go. Don't touch people without permission, she said mildly. The corridor air shifted again, attention sharpening, breaths held. Trask's plates rattled with angry vibration. You think you can stand against all of us? No, Myra answered. But I can stand between you and her. Lyra's throat tightened. She had no idea why this human cared, no idea what Myra expected to gain or lose. But for the first time in 3 months, the dread inside her wings eased enough for warmth to seep back in. Trask lunged again. This time, Myra stepped back, positioning herself fully in front of Lyra. Her expression sharpened but remained controlled, a calm forged by something deeper than confidence. She didn't posture, didn't bark threats, didn't escalate. She simply met force with precision, redirecting each attempt with movements that looked less like fighting and more like refusal. It lasted only seconds, but the tone of the corridor changed. The watching students no longer pretended not to look. The moment Trask finally withdrew his hand, Myra spoke, her voice low and firm. Walk away. Trask spat a curse, tail lashing, but he stepped back. Hearn and Veska followed, muttering. They weren't used to pushback, not like this. As they retreated, Myra looked over her shoulder at Lyra. You okay? Lyra's wings fluttered with a shivering warmth she hadn't felt in ages. I don't know. You will, Myra said. For the first time, Lyra believed someone might be right. For the rest of the morning, Lyra found herself glancing toward the doorway of every classroom, half surprised each time Myra didn't appear. It wasn't that she expected the human to hover near her. It was simply strange to imagine someone stepping into her life so abruptly, then vanishing just as quickly. She had grown so accustomed to isolation that even one moment of defense felt unreal, like a dream she would soon wake from. During the mid-cycle break, she sat alone in the observation garden, a small dome filled with artificial flora meant to ease stress for species sensitive to confinement. Lyra often came here to let her wings recover from the pressure in the corridors, but today the peace didn't settle. Her wings trembled in faint pulses, as if her own body didn't know how to interpret what had happened. Protection wasn't a concept her nervous system recognized easily. A shadow fell across the path. Lyra tensed, wings tightening. But when she looked up, it wasn't Trask, it was Myra, holding a nutrient bar and wearing the kind of neutral expression that made it unclear whether she had come intentionally or simply wandered in. You're hard to find, Myra said, breaking the bar in half and offering a piece. Lyra blinked. You were looking for me? Obviously. Myra placed the piece gently beside her. You didn't think I'd just disappear after this morning, did you? I didn't know what to expect. Myra sat beside her without asking, knees drawn up, posture loose but alert. Most people don't expect anything from humans. We're new. Mysterious. Unpredictable. Sometimes problematic. She shrugged lightly. But on my world, the rule is simple. If someone's being cornered, you don't walk past. You stand with them. Lyra lowered her gaze. I don't understand why. You don't need to. Myra leaned back on her palms, staring up at the garden dome's illuminated sky. You just need to know I meant what I said. Silence settled again, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Myra didn't rush the moment, didn't press questions. Lyra found herself studying the human's expression, stillness, patience, and something else she couldn't name. Humans radiated intention in ways the Varelen weren't used to. Too many species on Helion masked emotion behind biology, but humans wore their emotions in their posture, in their eyes, even in their breathing. Lyra finally asked the question that had lingered since morning. Aren't you afraid of them? Myra chuckled under her breath. Afraid? No. Alert? Yes. Caution keeps you alive. But fear? If I let that decide things, I wouldn't get anything done. Lyra's wings fluttered reflexively, catching a faint current of warmth. Where did you learn to move like that? Myra didn't look away from the artificial sky. Different places. Different people. I was small growing up, surrounded by bigger kids who assumed they could push me around. Turned out I had a talent for not letting them. Her lips curved in a faint, dry smile. And once humans discovered energy-based hand-to-hand training, things got interesting. Lyra absorbed that quietly. Her people defended themselves through avoidance. Conflict was an unnatural concept. But Myra described it with a specificity that felt lived, practiced. Not reckless, disciplined. A soft chime echoed across the dome, signaling the end of break. Students in nearby sectors stood, gathering their belongings. Lyra shifted uneasily. They'll be waiting again. Myra rose to her feet and stretched. Probably. But so will I. Lyra looked up at her sharply. You don't have to follow me around. I'm not, Myra said simply. I'm walking to class. Same direction as you. But you're making yourself a target. Good, Myra replied. Makes things clear. Lyra didn't understand at first. Clear for whom? For them, Myra said, turning toward the corridor. And for you. They left the garden together. Word had spread. Lyra noticed it in the way students parted, not out of fear of her but out of curiosity toward Myra. Humans were anomalies here, few enrolled, fewer interacted. And none had made a public stand like this. The corridor leading to the learning hall buzzed with muted voices. When Lyra spotted Trask and his group ahead, her breath tightened, wings drawing close. But Myra didn't slow. She walked with a steady, unhurried gait, hands in the pockets of her station jacket. Trask's eyes locked onto them immediately. His posture stiffened, tail lowering in a defensive arc. Hearn and Veska flanked him, but none made a move. Not yet. You again, Trask sneered. Didn't learn your place this morning? Myra stopped a few paces away. Lyra could sense tension creeping across the corridor like static air. Students hovered at a safe distance. Even the station's environmental hum felt quieter. My place, Myra said calmly, is wherever I decide to stand. Trask stepped forward, nostrils flaring. Stay out of Varelen business. Bullying isn't cultural tradition, Myra replied. It's just cowardice with scales. A ripple of surprise moved through the onlookers. Even Lyra felt it. Humans spoke with a directness most species avoided. Hearn growled. You think you're protecting her? You can't protect anyone. Myra tilted her head. I'm not protecting her. I'm standing with her. Big difference. Veska moved first, perhaps expecting the same sequence of attempts would overwhelm Myra. But Myra shifted slightly, weight transferring, prepared. Lyra couldn't see exactly what happened next. It was too quick, but Veska ended up stumbling backward, claws scraping the floor. Myra didn't attack, didn't escalate. She simply denied space. Denied momentum. Denied permission. Trask's frustration boiled over. He stepped in, reaching toward Myra's shoulder in a clumsy attempt to shove her aside. Myra diverted the contact with a controlled parry and positioned herself directly between him and Lyra, leaving Trask no angle to reach past her. She didn't smirk. Didn't boast. Just held steady, breathing even. Trask snarled, but Myra spoke first. This ends now. Not with punches. Not with broken bones. It ends because you finally understand you don't decide who's allowed to walk through a door. Her voice wasn't loud, but every word carried. Lyra felt something shift behind her sternum, a sensation like release, like a knot loosening. Trask hesitated. The hesitation told everyone everything. And for the first time, Lyra saw him as smaller than she remembered. Myra leaned slightly forward, not threatening, just unmistakably present. Walk away. The core trio exchanged glances. For the first time, they recognized the one thing Myra used better than strength: certainty. Trask turned sharply, muttering. Hearn and Veska followed him in retreat. Around them, the corridor exhaled. Myra exhaled too. Lyra felt warmth rush through her wings, real warmth, the kind she hadn't felt in months. Myra looked back at her, expression softening. See? You didn't need me to fight. You just needed someone to stop pretending not to see. Lyra swallowed hard. Why are you doing this? Myra considered the question. Because everyone deserves one person who refuses to walk away. For the rest of the cycle, no one approached Lyra, not with whispers, not with glances, not with the subtle territorial crowding she'd grown accustomed to. She wasn't sure whether it was Myra's presence or the undeniable shift in the corridor's atmosphere, but something had changed permanently. Even the air felt different, no longer cold and pressing against the membranes of her wings. After dismissal, the halls thinned until only a few stragglers remained. Lyra lingered by the exit, unsure whether to return to her quarters or stay in the learning wing. Myra walked beside her at an easy pace, unhurried, hands tucked back into her jacket pockets. It struck Lyra how little Myra seemed affected by the confrontation. Other species vibrated with adrenaline. Myra just breathed. You don't have to keep walking with me, Lyra said softly. They won't be back today. Probably not. Myra glanced down the corridor, checking corners without seeming to. But I'm not here because of them. Lyra stopped. That sentence held more layers than she could parse at once. Then, why? Myra looked at her fully then, and there was no pity, just recognition. You've been carrying fear alone for a long time. Nobody should have to. She hesitated a moment, searching for words. Standing with someone isn't a one-time thing. It's a choice you keep making until they can stand on their own. Lyra touched the edge of her wing reflexively. The fractures she'd come to expect each day were absent, replaced by a warmth that spread through her membranes like rippling light. I don't want to depend on you, she admitted. I want to feel strong on my own. That's the whole point, Myra replied gently. I'm not here to replace your strength. I'm here until you remember you have it. Lyra had no response, not immediately. But something inside her shifted again, deeper and steadier. Maybe strength didn't always start from within. Maybe, sometimes, it began with someone else refusing to let fear decide the shape of your days. They reached the final intersection leading to the habitat ring. Myra slowed, then stopped. This is where we split, she said. My quarters are the other direction. Lyra nodded but didn't move. A question rose unbidden. Will you, be here tomorrow? Myra raised a brow. Do you want me to be? Lyra's wings fluttered with a small, hesitant glow. I think I'd like to walk without feeling alone. Myra smiled, not wide, but warm enough to reach her eyes. Then I'll be here. She turned to leave, but Lyra spoke again, voice steadier this time. Myra? Yeah? Thank you. Not for the fighting. For seeing me. Myra's expression softened in a way Lyra hadn't seen before, something almost vulnerable. Most people just need someone to look twice. You were never invisible. They just refused to look. She gave a final nod and walked down the opposite corridor, her footsteps fading into the echoing hum of HFY station. Lyra watched her go, wings unfolding slowly, fully, catching the corridor lights in a shimmering display she hadn't allowed herself in months. For the first time, extending them didn't feel like exposing a weakness. It felt like reclaiming space. As she walked back toward her own habitat, students passing by turned to look, some curious, some surprised, none mocking. And Lyra realized that fear had shaped her posture for so long she'd forgotten what it felt like to move without it. Myra hadn't given her strength, she'd reminded her she had the right to it. By the time Lyra reached her door, her wings glowed softly with warmth, steady and unbroken. Tomorrow, she would walk to class again. But she would not walk alone.